Okay. Hope you have your book of Ruth. It's just a few extra comments concerning the end of chapter 1. It said that Ruth and Naomi arrived in Israel at the time, at the beginning of the harvesting of barley. So
Which
if that's
chapter
the
are we
case,
on?
what? Hear what you said. What?
Which chapter?
I was just the last sentence
okay.
of chapter 1. I know we did a few sentences, chapter, just a few other comments. On chapter 1, we said that they well, it mentions at the end of the chapter 1, it says that when Naomi and Ruth were arriving in Israel, all the people were there. And we mentioned, what were all the people doing outside the city? So we said one interpretation is that Boaz's wife, first wife, passed away, and his one wife left him, and eventually Ruth will be his second wife. But another thing, at the end of the chapter, it said they came at the beginning of the harvesting of barley. Now, on the second day of Passover, the mitzvah was to offer a barley offering. And why was that necessary? In order to have the chodesh, the new harvest could not be eaten until you offered the barley offering. Okay, so they were involved in the harvesting of the barley. Okay, and another interpretation the Midrash brings down why all the people were there was that Boaz, according to this interpretation, Boaz had some daughters who he married off that particular day. You see a lot of changes over here. If according to that Midrash, they did things that today we don't do. We do not have wedding ceremonies during Chol HaMoed. And it seems based on the Midrash, if according to this that Boaz had many daughters and he married off the daughters on that day, and that's another thing we don't officiate. First of all, weddings on Chol HaMoed. Certainly, you don't have two sisters marrying at the same time, one after the other. We don't do that. But anyway, that's what the Midrash says. Okay, let's go so on, and now let's begin again on chapter 2. Okay, chapter 2 in the book of Ruth, verse 1. Naomi Modali Yisha. Naomi had a close relative. Was related to her husband, her late husband, a man of substance. He was a close relative of Naomi's husband, and it seems like, listen, when she came back, she didn't ask him for anything, any support. She felt shame at having deserted her people, or some want to say that at the rate when they first came back, he was a little angry at her. Boaz was angry at that she had brought back a Moabite girl back with her, and he avoided them. Boaz avoided any contact with Naomi until God made through his hashgacha, through his supervision, that it happened to be that Ruth will go ahead and come into Boaz's field. But see, it was both ways. She was ashamed that she came back and she had forsaken her people, and he at the beginning also didn't want to really contact her because he was a little upset with her that she deserted her people. Okay, let's go further. Verse 2, in chapter 2, verse 2. Atoma Ruth Hamovia El Nami, and Ruth Hamovia, Ruth the Moabite, said to Naomi, El Chono Hasudev Alachtoba Shibolim. I'll go ahead and I will go into a field and gather and glean from the grain that falls. Behind those who I will find favor in the eyes, let me do it. And she was also afraid that they wouldn't let her in, that they would not let her in to glean. Now, why not? Why would they let her in?
Because she was a Moabite.
That's right. She was a Moabite, she stood out, like I mentioned, most probably a skin, she had a darker complexion. So she was concerned about that. And might kick her out, said, "You don't belong here." Who knows? They might do that. So she was concerned about that. And don't forget also, you have to give Ruth a lot of credit. She came from nobility. Her father was the king of Moab, Eglon Melech of Moab. And here, a princess to do work like that, to go glean in the field, that also would be something that she wasn't used to. But nevertheless, she was willing to do it, as you soon see.
Rabbi,
Yes.
what about the halakha? You're supposed to be good to the stranger, because remember you were a
Yeah,
stranger.
you're right, but sometimes it doesn't work out. They might say, "Look, you're not from our people." It could happen, and she was concerned about that. Maybe to see from that that people would have, that maybe some people would have thrown her out. Here, when she got to his field, she wasn't, and that's why later she was very happy of the fact that Boaz did not throw her out. Yeah, that's. Look at the discrimination was all the time throughout all the thousands of years. So she felt that she would be discriminated against, because of her complexion. Yeah, but nevertheless, she was very careful where she went, and that's why look what it says over there. She says in verse 2. Ruth said to Naomi, go to the field. Only in the field where I will find favor in their eyes, that they'll let me do it. So obviously you could see from that some people would not let her come in. Okay. And you also have to give her credit, she like I mentioned before, she's from nobility, and she's doing this type of thing. But Toma law, and Naomi answered her, "Chibiti, oh my daughter." Interesting. What does she call her? My daughter. As Naomi really felt very close to her, and Ruth felt very close to Naomi, as if it's her own daughter. Right. Okay. And she said, even though you like to be my own daughter, I still will let you go and glean. Okay. By the way, according to the tradition, according to some of our rabbis, how old do you think Ruth was at this time?
How long what?
How old do you think at this time? How old was Ruth now when she's going to glean in the other fields?
28.
Higher.
38.
You're getting closer. 40. According to
40.
our sages, she was 40 years old. Well, look, she was married to the first husband for 10 years, and so it works out something like that then. 40, 30, yeah, something like that. That's according to our sages. But besides that, she was willing to do it, although she comes with nobility, she was willing to go ahead and glean in another person's field, something normally would be beneath her dignity as a princess, but she was willing to do that because of her great love for Naomi, her mother-in-law. Okay.
She also had to eat.
That's true too. Yeah, that's true. Okay. It's interesting at this point that Ruth was ashamed to talk to Boaz. She could have gone to Boaz. I'm talking Naomi. Naomi could have gone to Boaz and asked for some help because he certainly was a wealthy man. He was related to her. He could have helped her out. She was also ashamed. She felt, he had forsaken her people during the famine years, and now she's coming back. She felt awkward to go ahead and ask him for some help. Anyway, we see that Ruth was willing to do it to glean, although, like I mentioned before, she was a princess, and I would assume work like that was not part of her schedule. Okay. Verse 3. And it says she went and she came. So what do you mean she went and she came? What does that mean? She was, when she went to find a place to glean, she was watched who was there. Were they nice people or would they be nasty? So she was also concerned. So she finally found a place where she thought she'd be accepted and everything would be okay. That's only about Taylor Batavo. She went off, she went, and she came. Going from place to place to see, looking at the people who were there in that field. But she gleaned a particular field, saying behind the harvesters, and by Yika Mikra Chelpas Hasodel Boaz. And as fate have it already, it's but the Hashkacha, through her divine supervision, that she could enter the field that belonged to Boaz. Hashem Mishparas Elimelech, it was really Mishpacha, really family to Naomi. Okay. So this is really the heavenly plan of building a royal house of Israel started blooming at this particular time. It's really interesting that Malchus based David, that the Davidic dynasty stems from a Moabite girl. I didn't mention that last week too, but that's the way it was. That was through Hashgacha, through whatever the reason was, I don't know, but that was through the Hashgacha of God's supervision that these things had to happen this way. Okay, and it says, as that verse 3 ends, as Hashgacha was, the supervision was through God, she was able to come to the field of Boaz from the family of Elimelech. Now, although I mentioned before that Boaz might have been a little upset with Naomi that she came back with a Moabite girl, but he's going to see what a wonderful girl she really is, as how she gleaned in the field and how courteous she was. Okay. Then it says, "B'nei Boaz born Beis Lechem." Now, although Boaz was an affluent man, we know that, and normally he doesn't go into the field to see how the harvesters are doing. He had workers, and he trusted them, I suppose. But again, through Hashgacha, that it just happened that time that Boaz comes to the field, to his field. He came to Beis Lechem from Bethlehem. You know, that's the name of the place. And you see, and he's also another thing. He's coming from. He just finished, according to some of our sages, he had completed his mourning period for his wife. Okay. Okay. He came from Hashem Imachem. And this was something I didn't mention last time. And he said to the harvesters, God with you. And they said, God should bless you. And I mentioned that's where the whole thing of Baruch Hashem came from. You don't find it in the Torah that one asks you how you feel, you say, blessed is God or something like that. When it's according to some sage where it says when Boaz was coming to his field, he was coming from the Beit Din, from the court, the Jewish court at that time, where they made the decision at that time that they must ask how are you, and they should always respond in the name of God. Now the Midrash brings down and says the reason why they instituted that because it seems like in the time of Boaz, the idea of the idolatry was the big thing in those days, and many of the Jews went astray and they start worshiping some idols. So in order to have the name of God constantly in your speech, it wasn't just Boaz and his court. He was a member of the Sanhedrin or whatever the court system was called then, and they made that particular ruling at that time. And he was coming from the Beit Din, from the court, after that ruling was decided upon, that you must say, when you ask somebody how you're feeling, you could respond, thank God, Baruch Hashem, or God should bless you, or whatever the response was. Yeah. See, where are we? Okay. Verse 4, okay. That's what I just mentioned when it said, I said he came from the court at that time, and already finished his shloshim, his 30 days also. That's why he asked the harvesters, God with you. And they said to him, God bless you. And this was from then on, you had that particular statement. Boaz said to his young men who oversaw the other harvesters, who is this young woman? Who is this? Uh, who is this woman? Now, why would he all of a sudden point to this particular woman? And so all of a sudden it seemed that he caught his interest. Okay, because there's a din of leket. Leket is when a harvester cuts his grain. So if one or two stalks fell down, the poor person can go ahead and take it. If it would be three or more, they were not allowed to take it. It had to be left for the owner of the field. And so Boaz noticed that's why he says, "Who's this girl?" Because Boaz noticed that she was abiding by the halacha. That if only two stalks fell, she would take those stalks. It would be if behind the harvesters, if more than two stalks fell from the hand, she didn't pick it up. So it seemed Ruth knew some rules and regulations, and he saw how she did it and how modest and humble she was, and so that's why he asked, "Who's this girl?" and his work has responded. Verse 6, Bayan Hanar, and this was the young man who was the head of the harvesting, and he saw Kosim, who was like overseeing the harvesters. Bayomani said, Nara Moaviyah, she is the Moabite woman, Hashava Imnami Mistayadom, who returned with Nami from the field of Moab. Okay. And they give a whole explanation in the next verse why she's going ahead and she's gleaning in our field. Look what he said. It seems like they were thinking maybe Boaz is going to be upset with them that they allowed her in. Because look what they say in the next verse. Vatomer, and they're telling Boaz, this girl, this Bruce said, Alachtono, may I go ahead and glean over here? Sati Morim, and take from the small sheaves. That's another thing. Another poor person will have to take was very tiny sheaves that was also left for the poor. After the harvesters, after they did their work. First of all, to show he was telling Boaz, he was very respectful. She asked for permission. Maybe other ones just walked in. She went ahead and most probably she asked for permission because she was afraid that she'd throw her out. That's what he's saying to Boaz. He's saying, this girl, this Ruth said, may I go ahead and glean in your field and also take some of the small sheaves that are left for the poor after the harvests are finished. But so he told her, he mentioned it to Boaz, who was very respectful and asked for permission. Some people would just walk in. And she came and she stood. She's been working the whole day, from morning till now. And occasionally, except for a resting period that she would take in a little hut, whatever they had there, little sukkah, she would go ahead and rest for a while. But for the whole day, she's gleaning. I don't know how much stalks fall down, but she gleaned enough that she'd have some amount of food to bring home to Naomi. Okay. Okay. Verse 8. Boaz goes over to her. Boaz goes over to Ruth. Halo Shama'at BT. And look again, he refers to her as his own daughter, as a very close relationship. Of course, he was an older man, but still, there might have been a reason why he called her my daughter. But he wanted her to feel welcome. he saw that he saw something very special about this woman, that she was careful how she gleaned. Like I mentioned before, if only one or two stalks fell, she would take that. If more than that, she would just walk past that and not take it. So Boaz said to Ruth, "Hello, Shemat BT. I've heard, or Al Telchil Kot, or about you. Al Telchil Kot, do not go into any other place to do gleaning." And why did he tell her that? Not because he must have known also that not everybody would permit her to glean. So don't worry, you don't go anyplace else. Don't go away from here. Don't leave here. You could stay with the young girls also who are gleaning with you. Okay. And he says, verse 9, Einayich basudeshik so run. You only eyes, keep your eyes on the field which you are presently harvesting. Malacht acharehim, and go after the harvesters. And look what he said. And I've told the boys, leave me alone. Do not to bless you, not to bother you. Because again, you see clearly that there must have been certain people that the owners were not permitted. Maybe they were troublemakers, but in this case, just like Ruth was concerned because she's a Moabite, so that she didn't know if everyone will accept her. Well, I suppose the owners also. There might have been some people coming in who were troublemakers. So he says, I've told them, leave you alone. Not they should. You're acceptable here in my property to glean, and they'll. I told them not to molest you in any way. Okay. If you're thirsty, go to the utensils that there's water there, just sit, you could drink. But from the water that my boys went ahead and drew. Okay, so as I said before, that she was resting in the sukkah, the little hut, whatever was there. She did some work. So he says, you don't have to worry, do whatever you want. And if you're thirsty, go ahead and have some water. So it was very kind to her because he saw something very special about her. Again, this must have been through hashgacha, through God's divine supervision, because this is the way he wanted it, that she was destined to be the mother of the Davidic dynasty. Okay. And she also was very, very appreciative the way Boaz treated her, because you see from the next verse. But he pulled out Poneh, but she prostrated herself, and she fell on. That was the way, showing respect, and fell on her face and prostrated herself. But Tomri love, she said to Boaz, Madua motzosi lakireni. Why have I found favor in your eyes, and you recognize me, and you're treating me so wonderfully? Well, although I'm a stranger. So somebody mentioned before, you have to treat a stranger right. So Boaz was saying to her, she was saying to him, I'm a stranger, and nevertheless, look how nice you are and courteous to me, permitting me to stay here and cook and glean and take maybe a small sheaves that the harvesters left. Yeah. So he saw something very special in her. In verse 11, Vayan Boaz Vayomalah. Now Boaz reveals how he knows. Yeah. So it seems like, although I said before that Naomi and Boaz maybe at the beginning did not speak to one another because she was ashamed and he was a little upset that she left Eretz Israel. Because now it seems that he does know some information. Maybe in the neighborhood they spoke. Word gets around. So Vayan Boaz Vayomalah. And Boaz answered and said to her, you know why I recognize you and I'm treating you so nicely? Who God li kol asher sis es chamuseh. I know all about what you did with your mother-in-law. See, right away he knew exactly what it was. And who your mother-in-law Naomi. Acharei Mos Ishech, after her husband Elimelech died. V'tazvi ovich v'imech, and you did something very interesting. You have left the family. Really, your father and your mother and your family reside in Moab, B'eretz Moladetech, the land that you were born, your birthplace. But Telchel Am Asher Yudat, and now you've come to a people and us, to people that you did not know to Moshe Shalom years ago. Oh yeah, no. So obviously he must have. Word must have gone around. If he didn't hear it from Naomi, he must have heard from the people that told you that the Moabite girl around here, must have gone around, talk went around. Okay, now, so back in the English, well, poses a question. I think, let's see what your opinion is. The question he poses is, who was greater? Abraham lived in Ur Kasdim. He left his home, came to Israel, or Ruth, who left her home for Moabite and comes to Israel. Who would you think is more important? Who did the greater act? What do you think? And he said, no? Nobody has an answer. Who is Jeff? According to our
Ruth.
Yeah, but why? Okay, you're right. That's what they want to
Because
say.
Abraham
Why
left
is
with his
Ruth greater than
family.
Abraham? I'm sorry, what did you say?
Abraham left with his family, and Hashem said he would protect Abraham. Well, sort of, right?
Good.
It was an
Yeah,
order,
yeah.
and Ruth just went into the unknown.
And another thing, God appeared to Abraham and said, leave your house and go to the land, go to Israel. Here she did on her own volition, went on her own volition, leaving her own home. God didn't appear to her and say, leave your house. It wasn't a divine command. So according to the commentators, Ruth was greater in that respect than Abraham. Ruth left on her own volition. Abraham was commanded by God to leave. Okay, so interesting point. Okay, you got to give her a lot of credit. Okay, verse 12, and Moses is giving also a lot of credit to her. He thought that was a fantastic thing. Leaving home, they didn't have transportation like we have today. Going from Moab to Israel was must have been a big trip. And he said, Yishalim Hashem Polech. May God reward you for what you have done, for all your work you've done. Usanhi maskurutech shlema, and your payment shall be full, complete. Me'em Hashem from before God, okay, Israel, for the God of Israel. Now, look at the word shlema. If they didn't have the that's they have removed the vowels that it has presently, what name? Instead of shlema. What name? Instead of Shlema, what name of a person would you have? Come on.
Shlomo.
Shlomo.
Meshulam. What about Meshulam also?
Shlomo. So he was like hinting they knew some they had some insight. Or Chazal, when they wrote the book of Ruth, they were hinting to certain things that eventually the kingdom of Judah will rise to the highest level in the time of Shlomo. Remember, Elimelech, he knew kingship will come from him. So also when the book of Ruth was written, they hint to certain things that I suppose the king that had an effect on the entire world. People came from the whole world to hear the wisdom of Solomon. So when will your reward be complete? The payment? When King Solomon will come about. And of course, he was in his day, he was world renowned. And people, it's brought down that people came from all over the world to hear the wisdom of Solomon. In fact, in the Apocrypha, they have the book called Chachma Shlomo, the wisdom of Solomon. Because it might have come from Solomon, we don't know. That's the Apocrypha that's written by others, but was never canonized. It was never canonized into the Bible. Okay. But Shlomo had written a lot of books. Mishlei, the book of Proverbs, the book of Shirashim, Song of Songs that we read a couple of weeks ago on Pesach, and Koheles, Ecclesiastes, more philosophical book. But anyway, uh, it's hinted, the word Shlema is hinting to Shlomo when the kingdom of Judah will be world renowned. Oh, by the way, also, David HaMelech stems from Ruth. He had a battle with the giant. What was the giant's name? David and who? David and? Famous battle.
Goliath.
Goliath. You know who Goliath's ancestor was? They say Orpah, Ruth's sister. Interesting. So here on the battlefield, they were far off.
Oh, yeah, you told us that.
I told you that one time. So you hear David and Goliath are battling. They were far off relatives. Okay, and then you know the story that David defeated Goliath. Okay, but it's very interesting how history came about. That they have the descendants of Ruth and Orpah meet on the battlefield. Okay. I don't know if that time that David realized that. It's maybe that he was fighting a far-off cousin. I don't know. I don't know if he knew it then. Although I did mention even Shaul. Yeah, that was. I think I mentioned this also. Although we know the halacha later on, the book of Ruth will say that too, that a Moabite woman may marry or converted may marry a Jewish man, but a Moabite man, even though he converted to Judaism, cannot marry a Jewish girl. Yes, but that was a special halacha, which was not well known or circulated at that particular time. Okay. Where are we now? So let's go back to that verse. Verse 12. He says, God will pay him side again. Shalem Hashem polech. Hashem will reward you for all your good things that you've done. We see maskutech shlema, and your reward will be complete. I thought about Shlomo. Ne'em Hashem from God, Elokei Israel. Asher bos lachasos tachas k'nafov. You've come under the wings to take refuge. His wings means God's wings to take refuge. That's an expression for meaning what? You've come to seek refuge under his wings. What does that mean? You know. It means under God's wings, Remember, with the, what does it say? I'll carry on on eagle's wings. It's protected by God. It seems to go over here, the expression to go to take protection under the wings, under his wings, meaning to have a full conversion and accept all the rules and regulations that Hashem has said. Okay. Okay, now, after hearing this, Ruth must have been very happy, not been kicked out, and being accepted. And in fact, it seems like Boaz also knew that not only that she knew about her, but he knew that eventually she wants to convert completely to Judaism. Remember, we weren't sure there's a dispute among our sages whether they had a conversion of Moab or not. We're not certain. But most of the sages say she did not have it. So now this is the time when she wants to have it. She wants to embrace Judaism. Okay, verse 13. But Tomer and Ruth then said, may I find favor in your eyes, my Lord, Boaz. You have comforted me. It was very nice to her, so she was very felt very good about it. And you spoke to the heart of your maidservant. It was very kind to me, being very kind. And she says, and as it stands now, I'm not as worthy as one of your maidservants. She was a very humble woman. You see that? So she was very appreciative to what he's done for her. Okay. And now he wants to be very, wants to do her a favor and make sure that she feels comfortable. Boaz responds to her, maybe it's time to eat, time of eating. Bochi halom, go by all means. But I must have been certain, maybe in that sukkah, that little tent, they might have had snack. And so he told her, go and eat from bread. It's a valt biteich bachometz. And you should dip your bread in vinegar. Now, I don't know if it's true today, but according to our sages, it was hot. If it the vinegar, if you dip sorry, whatever the food was, the bread into vinegar, that cools off a person. At least that was the remedy in those days. I don't know. You should try that. Anybody try that? I don't know. Okay. Let me. Ateisha mitzara kotrim, and she sat on the side of the harvesters. Vayitzvat law koli, and but the Boaz went ahead and handed to her some parched grain, but tochal, but tisba, but tosa. She ate, she was satisfied, and she left over. Okay, now the first, what do you find in the Torah? A famous word: you should eat and be satisfied.
Birkat Hamazon.
Right, it's supposed to be a chalto b'savata. Eat and be satisfied and break and mentions and bless God. Here also, and also it says you should eat, be satisfied, leave over. That sometimes when person benches, and sometimes the waiters come around at the very end of the meal, and I see they take off the challah. You ever notice that? And you didn't bench yet. You should tell the waiter, no, leave one roll there, one piece of bread there. Because when you bench, you should have some food on the table. Like you left over some food. Yes, and it happens to me many times. I always tell the way, don't leave some bread on the table. And the reason why I tell them that is that some bread, some food should be remaining on the table when you recite benching. Even at home, you have your own meal. Before you bench, don't remove all your bread and then you bench. Leave something, a challah, a roll, whatever it may be, before you bench. Before you say the bracha. And here we see it. We derived that particular point from here. She ate, she was satisfied, and left over. See, okay. See. Some say, and this is the Alshich. The Alshich says, I haven't quoted him in a while. The Alshich said that this was the first filling meal that she has eaten in a long time. And that's why the book of Ruth makes mention that she ate and was satisfied. It appears from the wording over here that beforehand she maybe ate but was never really satisfied. She didn't have enough food in her stomach. Okay. All right, where are we now?
15.
Where are we? Number 15. 15. Okay. But talking about Kate. Okay, she got up after she finished cleaning. By itself, Boaz is the Rob Limona. Boaz, he liked this girl. Maybe love at first sight. He saw something very special about her. And Boaz commanded his workers, also let it glean among the sheaves, let her take it. Don't embarrass her, just let her take whatever she wants. Okay? You ever, Gam shol to sholu la min hachatzvosim. And even telling him, I'm telling purposely, deliberately, leave some of the what do you call it, the sheaves for her. Bazaptam belikta, let her take some below cigar boat. Don't yell at her, leave her alone. She has special dispensation. She has. She can do whatever she wants. Okay. Verse 17. But and then she really worked hard. She was gleaning in the field until the evening, the whole day's work. Boat as a shirley keta, and then I don't know what they have to do, how to make this the barley into whatever she was gleaning into food, and she prepared it, beat out whatever she gleaned. Must be some process in baking. And came out a for a barley, a certain amount of a measure called an aphah, a barley. I don't know what the equivalent amount is today, but it was a substantial amount. Okay. Vatis verse 18. But he saw the boir, she carried it and came back to the city. But Terech Moses Shaliketa, when her mother-in-law saw what she had gleaned, it must have been some sort of substantial amount. But Totsei, Batitanla, and she took it and he gave it to her. As a Shehosia Misaba. What she had left over after eating her field. Remember, she must have prepared something. She ate something, and then whatever was left over, but was enough to bring home. And Naomi was very, very proud of the amount of food that she brought back. Okay, but now, but verse 19, but Tomalach Hamotza, and her mother-in-law said to her, where in the world did you glean all this? Be on assist. And what did you do? Where did you work? May the one who recognized you be blessed. The one who left to do all this. And she tells her mother-in-law, I had this man, Boaz, whatever. All the things that he did with her, all what he did for her. And then Naomi tells her she had no idea, until this point, Ruth had no idea that Boaz was related to Naomi. Boaz, you know the person who did that all to you? You know his name is? His name is Boaz. And then she went and then she was like, well, let's end over here. But she was telling her that he is a relative. And maybe now she was very happy, Naomi, because she was a little afraid that, getting a strained relationship, because Boaz was upset for her maybe at the beginning, that she left her people, she could have helped them. But now it seems like everything's coming together. Ruth was in the field of Moab, a field of Boaz, and the relationship was very good. And Naomi sees that, this fellow Boaz is related to us. And she was happy to see that the relationship now has becoming better, that it was a little strained, and now they have a very good relationship. And soon we'll see what the good thing's going to happen. So let's stop here, and let's continue on Thursday at 8:00, right? Anything else with any question, any comments? Nobody says anything. Everybody's quiet today. What?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. Good.
Rabbi,
Very good.
I have a question.
Right.